what we've got here is a representation of agriculture and the community. We really want to show the role of the two. So a lot of what we talk about in agriculture is, what we talk about as far as biotic farming is adding life back to the soil. But the trouble with conventional agriculture is there's a lot of practices we do that are constantly removing life from this agricultural system. So for me, one of the things I hate the most in potato production is the overuse of soil fumigants and fungicides. And the reason we use them is because we're targeting a specific fungi that's causing a disease for us. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to apply a fungicide application. So remove a brick to represent the disease that we're attacking. Now the trouble that comes along with this, we did a really good job at removing that disease from the system, but a lot of these fungicides are very broad spectrum, and a lot of times they remove the beneficial fungi that are also in the soil. They're actually doing a lot of good for us. So we applied this fungicide to attack this disease, but we also killed off mycorrhizal fungi and some other beneficial fungi in the soil that were trapping and killing nematodes for us. So go ahead and remove 2 more bricks for us that are representing the beneficial fungi that exist in the system. Don't mess up, man. We got a long ways to go.
There's only 30 people watching you.
He is brave, isn't he? And for me, so as we stack them back on top, you know, the farm. This is a farm now. We need balance, and what Brendon and I try to talk about, what we want on our farms is balance, and we have to think. We call it holistic thinking. You know, how many of you guys have heard the word holistic? Okay. And thinking holistically means you think as a whole, the community, whether it's a farm or your community. And the reason I want to tie it to the community is because I think we've become disconnected. Our city cousins don't know how we grow food anymore. Sadly, we don't do real good with how. A lot of the producers don't know. But we are intertwined and we are a whole, whether it's rural or urban. So as he's putting these blocks back on top, this now is starting to become a burden to the farm because he's pulled things out of the farm that it needs. He's taken a link out of that chain. And also it's going to start to put burdens onto the community also.
What's next?
You're the farm.
So one of the big things for Gail is tillage. We don't see it quite eye to eye there as I'm a potato farmer, but for Gail, now the farm's going to go in here and till the soil. So as we till that soil, we're going to destroy some more fungal life in the soil. So go ahead and pull a brick representing that. Okay, we're also removing a lot of carbon from the soil. So go ahead and pull another brick that will represent the carbon that we're losing from the system as we continue to till.
Now, as Brendon said, he said that we don't see eye to eye, but I also understand why he has to till because of his potatoes. It's not a crop that is conducive to no-till. So what Brendon does, though he has to till, he replaces the microbes that he kills with his tillage with products. So he is doing everything he can to keep his system almost identical in line with no-till. He's adding things. So what we're doing now with tillage, and the burden that brings in the community, once you start to till, that soil is now loosened, makes it really easy to leave the farm. So once the soil leaves the farm, where does it end up? In Kansas? Well, if it's airborne, yes, then I get free soil, and that's a good thing. But a lot of the soil that leaves here is because of the rural irrigation, so it leaves in the water. And once it gets in there, then where does it go? Into the city water supply. Now the city is burdened, they now have to clean my soil out of your drinking water. And along with that, and we probably could just go ahead and pull another if you want, because what's going to be in the soil? Nitrogen. So now I'm losing my valuable soil and my valuable fertility, nitrogen, phosphorus. So go ahead and pull another one out, because now I'm losing a lot of my fertility out of the farm also. And now that's also going to bring more burden, because that's one more thing you don't have to clean out of your water.
Okay, as he keeps removing more and more bricks here, just notice how unsteady this is becoming already. It's starting to lose balance, and as we keep moving forward, it's getting harder and harder to keep removing from this complete system. And as farmers, the trouble is we never know when that last brick is going to get pulled and this thing might actually collapse. So we need to kind of question where we are right now. How many bricks have we already removed, and how unstable are we right now? So one more thing I'm going to have you pull right now. So insecticides get used quite a bit in agricultural production because we're out there trying to attack pests. So here we're applying a pesticide to remove a pest, and he's already ahead of me because not only are we removing the pests, but we're also removing a lot of the beneficial insects out there.
So now we talked about farming as a whole, or the chain, and we're removing links from our chain. So we all know what happens to the chain when you start to remove links. The chain gets weaker and weaker. So now what does a farmer have to do? He's weakened his farm. He now needs more acres to farm. He's got to get bigger to make enough money to continue to do what he's doing, right? At what expense does he get bigger? We lose a farm, right? What effect does that have on the community? If 2 farms become 1, 10 farms become 8, 8 become 4, how many kids do you now have in your school? How much money is now coming into your grocery store? How big is Delta? 12,000? 8,000? I don't know about here, but in Kansas, every small town, and I mean every small town in Kansas is fighting consolidation. Every other small town in Kansas will die in the next 20 years because one of them is going to lose their high school. And you know what happens if you lose your high school. So now as the farmers are becoming less stable, they've got to get bigger to survive, and they do so at the expense of not only agriculture, but also the communities that they support and that support them.
As we keep farming, as our focus continues on NPK fertilizers, the other thing that we're doing is depleting our soil of vital nutrients. So keep pulling more and more blocks out of here that are representing the nutrients that we're losing from our soil that should be in the food that we're consuming. What impact would that have on us, Gail?
So now, and this is starting to be documented, so now for the last 100 years, we have been mining nutrients. Every time we haul a bushel of corn or a pound of meat off of our farm, it's full of nutrients. Either nutrients that were already natural in the soil or nutrients that we've added commercially. But as the soil becomes, as we add nutrients, we're only adding nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. We're not adding selenium. We're not adding vitamins. We're not adding all of the micronutrients. And those are all really important, not just for the health of the soil, but for the health of us. So now the food that we are eating is not very nutrient dense. And so now it becomes a very huge issue because if you're not eating nutrient dense food, how does that relate to you? What does that do to you? You have to eat more because you're hungry all the time. What happens then? Obesity. What's one of the biggest problems facing the nation today? Obesity, diabetes. Do you know where the United States ranks in health on the planet? Anybody have a guess? Do you have a guess? Throw it out.
I'm not going to repeat that.
Anybody got a guess, sir? Where does the United States rank in health, overall health on the planet? He's guessing 20th, much lower. Somewhere below 40th. How is that so? We are number 1 in obesity. We're number 1 in cancer. We're number 1 in diabetes. We're number 1 in autism. We're number 1 in almost every major disease. The United States is number 1. How can that be? I really think that a lot of it is right here. Because we have mined our soil of the nutrients that we need unknowingly. And now we've got to start putting that back so that we're getting, and you can buy all the vitamins you want, you can buy all the grapes and all the fruit you want at the store, but those grapes and those oranges and those potatoes and those Brendans, there's very little nutrient density in any of them. Eggs, unless you're buying it local and they're grass-fed and they're coming off a healthy soil, and vitamins that you buy in the store, it's not the same as the vitamins you're getting out of a healthy potato that comes off of his farm.
Another one of the major issues I think about in the way current agriculture is that we have a major disrespect for Mother Nature. And one of those things that we don't respect about Mother Nature is in Mother Nature there's plenty of diversity in plant life. In agriculture we tend to grow monocultures, which means it's all the same crop all the time. But these crops belong together and they actually collaborate and help each other out quite a bit. So as he removes a couple more blocks for us, this is a representation of removing diversity from current agriculture and going towards a monoculture system.
And I guess I need to back up a little bit. Really didn't finish my last, because the nutrient density, I know that affects you personally, but how does that affect your community? What do your healthcare costs do now? How does that affect your hospital? So now with the diversity, and now the farm, as you can see, is getting really weak. So now how does the farmer stay afloat? Somebody have to bail him out? Crop insurance? Subsidies? Who pays for that? You do. You pay to subsidize our unhealthy system. It's just become a huge snowball that just continues to build and continues to build.
So I think this is a pretty good representation of where agriculture is right now. It's very unstable, and we're starting to figure out just exactly how many more bricks can we pull. But the thing that's nice is I'm going to go ahead and let him pull a couple more bricks. I'm interested to see just how good he is. But I think he's starting to get a little nervous there. You see that thing twisting a little, starting to shake a little bit more. But I think one thing that's kind of interesting is, as he's trying to find this other brick, what happens if I come over here and nudge this just a little bit? See, what this is extreme weather conditions. These are outside factors now. As we have more and more extreme weather conditions, look at this unstable system that he comes down. When you have a healthy soil, a healthy agro-ecosystem, you're more steady. You're not as prone to these outside factors as we do now. So just look at that. So I think we do have a decision to be made right now in agriculture. We can either continue pulling the bricks, destroying the system even further, or
we can choose to put the bricks back.
I have one more statement to make first before we get to that. Because Brendon just brought in the hurricane, the unseen. Mother Nature just hit, the blizzard, the flash flood, whatever. And the farm has to adapt that. But that also has an effect on the community. Because now the Red Cross has to come in and rebuild something. There's more tax dollars. That flash flood washed off a lot more soil that we should have held in place, but we didn't. And so, our storms are getting more intense, our weather, we can argue all day about global warming, global cooling, the next ice age, I don't care. I'm not smart enough to tell you which one is right. I can only tell you the climate is changing. And we were told that part of this was going to be extremes. And what have we seen on the planet in the last 5 years? We break records every day now. Record highs, record lows. Rainfall events are bigger than they've ever been. Droughts are bigger than they've ever been. The weather is hitting extremes. And the more extreme the weather gets, the more we need the Red Cross, the more we need disaster relief, and that's an even bigger burden on the community, on the tax base. So, as Brendon said, now we have a choice.
And I think it's interesting to watch him. I gave him a choice of putting the bricks back, and he wants to keep going. And I think this is one of the problems with agriculture. He's got a lot of pride. He was a self-proclaimed Jenga expert, and he wants to prove to us that he can pull as many bricks as possible. And we're facing that in agriculture. There's a lot of pride at stake here, and people are resistant to change because this is how we've always done it. We've always pulled bricks, and we'll be fine.
That is an outstanding point, because why change? We've been making money, we're still making money today, we're surviving. The government will bail us out. They'll bring in more crop insurance. We'll be just fine if we just continue as it is, and my kids can worry about it.
He is pretty good at this. I'm running out of stuff. Anything else? Should we just become a hurricane and finish it off for him? Knock him out of his misery? There you go. Pull a couple more for global warming. Good idea. Climate change. Conditions are changing. We have to be resilient. We have to be ready to adapt.
We need to pull two because we don't have a farm bill.
That's right.
I should have had a good base. I messed up on that. I was too greedy. If I would have had a strong base, I was too greedy. I wanted to start them all at once.
Well, greed's a really good one. Thank you for that. While you pull a couple more bricks, we'll talk about that one. Keep going. Keep going, man. You're going half a mile. You're doing pretty good. But Agreed. That is a really good example of that. We always want more, more, more. We don't ever know when to stop. One thing I really preach a lot on our farm is we've eliminated expenses from our farm, and now what we do is we invest in our soil. We invest in that soil for the future crops and for our future generations, and this feeds the community as well.
He just said it all. I didn't build a very good base. What is our base? Soil. Life begins and life ends with the soil. If you don't have your focus on the soil, this is what's going to happen.
I was gonna say,
I'm bringing you to my house.
You did real good. Appreciate that.
Well done.
So I guess I hope that's a good representation. I like to go until it does collapse, just to bring the reality of where we are in agriculture. Me and Gail both feel strongly that if we keep continuing the way most of conventional agriculture is, this is where we're going to end up. We watched a film this morning called Simply the Soil, and there was a guy in there talking about civilizations. Most of the great civilizations in this world developed around healthy soil, and as that healthy soil depleted, that's when those civilizations fell. And there's really no reason that we aren't going to follow that same pattern if we don't make some drastic changes and start taking care of that soil once again.
He pretty well summed it up. It's, if you read the book Dirt by David Montgomery, every civilization in the history of mankind has failed because of their treatment of the soil. So we are all in this together, and it's 1 minute before midnight. That is where we are at in agriculture today, and that is where your communities are at as well. So we need to find a way to band together and turn this all around.
Okay, thank you.